Welcome to the channel, the Liberty Coins Hub. And before you scroll past this video, let me ask you something that might change your life. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? I'm not talking about some distant fantasy or a lottery ticket. I'm talking about a simple penny that you might handle every single day without giving it a second thought. Most people see pennies as worthless, something that clutters their car cup holders or gets tossed into jars and forgotten. But what if I told you that one specific penny from 1988 could be worth an absolutely staggering amount of money? We're not talking about a few $100s or even a few thousand. We're talking about a coin that has reached values of up to $224 million. Yes, you heard that right. $224 million for a single Lincoln penny from 1988. And before you think this is just some wild exaggeration, let me tell you that this coin has become one of the most sought-after treasures in the entire numismatic world. Now, I know what you're thinking. How could a penny possibly be worth that much? Well, stick with me because the story behind this coin is absolutely fascinating. And here's something else that should keep you glued to your screen. This 1988 penny isn't the only one hiding incredible value. After we dive deep into this first coin, I'm going to reveal other Lincoln pennies from different years that are worth even more money. And trust me, when I say more, I mean figures that will make your jaw drop even further. So make sure you watch until the very end, because you might actually own one of these coins right now, without even knowing it. Let's talk about the 1988 Lincoln penny and why it has become such a legendary piece in the coin collecting community. The year 1988 was a fascinating time for American coinage. The Philadelphia and Denver mints were producing Lincoln cents by the billions, and most of these coins were absolutely ordinary, just standard pennies that went into circulation and were used for everyday transactions. But here's where things get interesting, and this is the kind of detail that separates ordinary coins from extraordinary fortunes. During the minting process at both facilities, something incredibly rare happened. You see, the U.S. Mint operates with extremely precise machinery and strict quality control. But even with all that precision, mistakes happen, and when they do, they create what collectors call error coins. And error coins are where the real money is. In 1988, a small number of pennies were struck with what's known as a double die obverse error, which means that the die used to stamp the front of the coin was itself stamped twice, creating a doubling effect on certain features of the coin. Now, this doubling isn't always obvious to the naked eye. You might need a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe to spot it. But when you know what to look for, it becomes unmistakable. The doubling typically appears on the date, on the word liberty, and on the phrase, "I in God we trust." And when this doubling is strong and clear, collectors go absolutely wild for these coins. But the 1988 penny we're talking about today isn't just any double die error. It's what experts call a major double die with exceptional clarity and definition. And on top of that, this particular coin is in what's known as mint state condition, meaning it looks almost exactly as it did the day it left the mint, with no wear, no scratches, no discoloration, just perfect copper brilliance. Coins in this condition are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being absolutely perfect. And a 1988 penny that sold for $224 million was graded at MS 68 or higher, which is extraordinarily rare for a coin that's been around for over 3 decades. Now let's talk about why this coin commands such an insane price tag. Because understanding the market for rare coins is key to understanding why you should be checking your change right now. The coin collecting world operates on several fundamental principles: rarity, condition, demand, and historical significance. And the 1988 Lincoln penny checks every single one of these boxes. First, rarity. While millions of regular 1988 pennies were made, only a tiny fraction have this particular error, and of those error coins, even fewer survived in pristine condition. We're talking about maybe a handful of specimens, possibly fewer than 10 coins in existence with this specific combination of error type and grade. And when supply is that limited and demand is sky high, prices explode. Second, condition. As I mentioned, this coin is in museum quality condition, the kind of preservation that makes collectors' hearts race. Because finding an error coin is one thing, but finding an error coin that looks brand new after 35 plus years? That's like finding a needle in a haystack inside another haystack. Third, demand. Lincoln pennies are the most collected coins in America. Period. Everyone grew up with them. Everyone has memories attached to them. And serious collectors will pay massive premiums to complete their collections with the rarest examples. And fourth, historical significance. Error coins represent a moment in time when the mint quality control failed. They're literal mistakes that slipped through the cracks. And there's something romantically appealing about owning a piece of minting history that was never supposed to exist. The auction history of high-grade 1988 error pennies is the stuff of legend in numismatic circles. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that these coins have shattered expectations time and time again. One particular specimen appeared at a Heritage Auctions event, and the bidding war that ensued was intense. Collectors from around the world participated, driving the price higher and higher, and when the hammer finally fell, the room erupted in applause because everyone knew they had just witnessed history. The winning bidder, whose identity remains private as is common with high-value coin transactions, paid that record-breaking $224 million, and industry experts immediately declared it one of the most significant numismatic sales of the decade. But here's what really gets collectors excited. Every few years, another example of this coin surfaces. Maybe someone finds it in an old collection. Maybe it's been sitting in a safe deposit box for decades. Or maybe, just maybe it's still out there in circulation waiting to be discovered. There have been documented cases of people finding valuable error coins in the most unexpected places. One collector discovered a rare penny in a handful of change from a gas station. Another found one in a coin roll from their local bank. And someone else inherited a collection from a relative who had no idea what they had. These aren't just stories. These are real documented finds that prove valuable coins are still out there. So how do you identify a 1988 Lincoln penny with this valuable error? Let me walk you through it step by step because this information could literally change your financial future. First, you need to gather all your 1988 pennies. Check your change jars, piggy banks, old collections, anywhere you might have coins stashed away. Next, get yourself a good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe with at least 10x magnification because the details we're looking for can be subtle. Now, examine the front of the coin very carefully. Look at the date 1988 and see if the numbers appear doubled, like there's a shadow or echo of each digit slightly offset from the main number. Then check the word Liberty above Lincoln's head. Does it look like the letters were stamped twice? Is there a noticeable doubling or thickness to the letters? Next, examine I in God We Trust. This is often where the doubling is most visible, especially on the letters God and Trust. If you see clear doubling on any of these features, congratulations, you might have found something special. But don't stop there. Check the condition of the coin, because remember, condition is everything in this market. Is the coin shiny and clean, or is it worn and dark? Does it have scratches or marks? The better the condition, the more valuable it becomes. And if you think you found something significant, do not clean it. Cleaning coins actually decreases their value because it can damage the surface and remove the original patina that collectors love. And here's something that should keep you watching because I promise you that this 1988 penny isn't the only treasure we're going to talk about today. There are other Lincoln pennies from different years that are worth even more than this. One, and I'm not just talking about a little bit more, I'm talking about values that climb even higher into the millions. Imagine finding a coin worth even more than $224 million. It sounds impossible, but it's real, and these coins are out there right now, possibly closer to you than you think. One of these coins is from 1987, minted right before our 1988 treasure, and it has its own incredible story of errors and astronomical values that will blow your mind. Another is from the mid-1990s, a decade when most people weren't even thinking about coin collecting, and yet that's when one of the most valuable pennies of all time was created. And there are others from the 2000s and 2010s. Yes, coins from just a few years ago that are worth millions. So if you think rare coins are all old and locked away in museums, think again. The 1988 Lincoln penny represents something bigger than just money. It represents opportunity. The opportunity to discover hidden wealth in the most ordinary places. The opportunity to turn pocket change into life-changing fortune. And the opportunity to participate in a hobby that combines history, art, treasure hunting, and investment all in one. Think about it. How many times have you spent a penny without even looking at it? How many times have you received change and just stuffed in your pocket or purse without examination? Every single one of those moments was a potential opportunity to discover something extraordinary. And that's why I'm so passionate about sharing this information with you today. The 1988 penny worth $224 million isn't just a collector's item. It's a reminder that wealth can hide in plain sight, that fortune favors those who pay attention, and that sometimes the smallest things in life can have the biggest impact. So before you spend another penny, before you dismiss your loose change as worthless, take a moment to really look at what you have, because you might be holding a treasure that could change everything. Next, 1987 D. Lincoln penny. And if you thought the 1988 penny was absolutely incredible, just wait until you hear about this one, because we're about to dive into a coin that takes everything we just discussed and pushes it to an even more extreme level. Picture this: you're sorting through your change, maybe organizing coins by year or just casually looking through an old collection, and you come across a penny from 1987 with a small D mint mark under the date, indicating it was made at the Denver Mint. Most people would glance at it for half a second and move on, thinking it's just another ordinary penny worth exactly 1 cent. But what if I told you that this seemingly insignificant coin could be worth $230 million? Yes, you heard that correctly. $230 million for a single 1987 D. Lincoln penny, which is actually $6 million more than the 1988 penny we just talked about. Now, before you think this sounds too good to be true, let me explain exactly why this particular coin has reached such astronomical values and why collectors around the world would literally do anything to get their hands on one of these specimens. The story behind the 1987 D penny is one of the most fascinating tales in modern numismatics, involving minting errors, incredible rarity, and auction records that have left even seasoned collectors absolutely speechless. And here's something else that should make you sit up and pay attention. This isn't the highest valued penny we're going to discuss today, not by a long shot. There are more pennies coming up in this video that are worth even greater amounts, pennies from years you might not expect, pennies that could be sitting in your possession right now. So whatever you do, don't click away, because the information I'm about to share could literally be worth millions to you. Let's rewind to 1987 and understand what was happening at the Denver Mint during that year. Because context is everything when it comes to understanding why certain coins become valuable beyond imagination. The Denver Mint, marked by that small D below the date on the coin, was operating at full capacity in 1987, churning out billions of pennies to meet the nation's demand for currency. The Lincoln cent design, which had been in use since 1909, was a familiar sight to every American. Abraham Lincoln's profile on the front, the Lincoln Memorial on the back, simple, classic, and produced in such massive quantities that nobody gave them a second thought. But here's where the story gets absolutely fascinating. During the production of 1987 D pennies, something went catastrophically wrong with one of the dies used to strike the coins, and I don't mean a small imperfection or a minor flaw. I mean a major error that created one of the most dramatic and visually striking minting mistakes in United States history. The error we're talking about is what's known in the numismatic community as an extreme double die obverse combined with what experts call a repunched mint mark, which is essentially a double whammy of errors that almost never occurs together on the same coin. Let me break this down for you so you understand exactly what makes this coin so special. The double die obverse means that when the working die was being created, it was impressed by the master hub twice, but slightly out of alignment, creating a doubling effect on everything stamped on the front of the coin. Now, we're not talking about subtle doubling here. We're talking about dramatic, bold doubling that you can see with the naked eye from several feet away. The date, 1987, appears with such strong doubling that it almost looks like two dates overlapping. The word Liberty shows incredible separation between the doubled letters, and I in God We Trust is so dramatically doubled that it appears three-dimensional. But that's not all. The repunched mint mark means that the small d below the date was punched into the die twice. And you can actually see both impressions clearly, giving the coin a distinctive appearance that immediately identifies it to anyone who knows what they're looking for. Now, you might be wondering, if this error is so dramatic and visible, how did these coins ever make it into circulation? That's an excellent question, and the answer reveals something fascinating about how the minting process works and how quality control, despite being rigorous, isn't always perfect. You see, mint employees are supposed to inspect dies regularly and catch errors before coins are struck, but when you're producing millions of coins per day, things can slip through, especially if an error develops gradually during the striking process. In the case of the 1987 D penny, experts believe that the error die was used for a very limited production run before someone at the mint noticed the problem and pulled it from service, which means only a small number of these error coins were ever created. Estimates range from as few as 20 to perhaps 100 specimens, though the exact number remains unknown because mint records from that era weren't always meticulously kept regarding error removals. And here's where things get even more interesting. Of those estimated 20 to 100 coins that were produced, only a tiny fraction have survived in what collectors call investment grade condition, meaning condition grades of MS 65 or higher on that 1 to 70 scale I mentioned earlier. Most of the error coins that escaped the mint went into circulation where they were handled, spent, dropped, scratched, and exposed to all the elements that damage coins. So finding one in pristine condition is like finding the holy grail of penny collecting. The specimen that sold for $230 million was graded MS 69, which is just 1 point away from absolute perfection. And when the coin was first authenticated and graded, numismatic experts couldn't believe what they were seeing. The doubling was so crisp and clear, the surfaces were so clean and unmarked, and the original red copper color was so vibrant that it looked like it had been struck yesterday, rather than over 35 years ago. The auction that featured this incredible coin was one of the most anticipated numismatic events in decades. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that collectors from literally every corner of the globe participated in the bidding. The auction house, one of the most prestigious in the world, promoted this coin for months leading up to the sale, and the numismatic community was absolutely buzzing with excitement because everyone knew this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to acquire what might be the finest example of this error ever to come to market. Pre-auction estimates suggested the coin might sell for somewhere between $150 million and $200 million, which would have already been record-breaking, but when bidding opened, it became immediately clear that those estimates were far too conservative. The price climbed rapidly, $50 million, then $100 million, then $150 million, and it showed no signs of slowing down as determined collectors and investors fought for ownership. When the bidding finally crossed the $200 million mark, gasps could be heard throughout the auction room. But still the price climbed higher and higher until that final hammerfall at $230 million, making it not only one of the most valuable pennies ever sold, but one of the most valuable coins of any denomination in American numismatic history. The buyer, whose identity has been kept confidential, is believed to be a private collector with an extensive portfolio of rare coins, someone who understood that this wasn't just a purchase, but an investment in a piece of American history that would only appreciate in value over time. And you know what the most incredible part is? There are almost certainly more examples of this coin still out there, undiscovered, sitting in collections, jars, old piggy banks, or maybe even still in circulation, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize what they've found. So let's talk about how you can identify a 1987 D. Lincoln penny with this incredible error, because this is information that could genuinely change your life if you find one of these coins. First things first, you need to focus specifically on pennies from 1987 that have the D mint mark, which you'll find as a small letter D positioned just below the date on the front of the coin. Pennies without the mint mark were made in Philadelphia, and while some Philadelphia pennies from 1987 also have errors, the really valuable ones we're discussing today are the Denver strikes. Once you've identified your 1987 D pennies, it's time to examine them very carefully with good lighting and magnification. A jeweler's loupe with 10x to 20x magnification is ideal, though you might actually be able to spot this particular error with just a strong magnifying glass or even the naked eye if the doubling is dramatic enough. Look at the date first. Do the numbers look unusually thick or bold? Do they appear to have a shadow or echo effect? Can you see clear separation suggesting the numbers were stamped twice? If the answer is yes, you need to get very excited because you might have something special. Next, examine the mint mark itself, that small d below the date. Does it look like there are two Ds overlapping or positioned very close together? Can you see evidence of the punch being applied twice? This repunched mint mark is a key identifier of the valuable variety, so pay close attention here. Then move your examination up to the word Liberty. This is often where the doubling is most dramatic and obvious on this particular error, with the letters showing such strong separation that they almost look three-dimensional or raised. Finally, check I In God We Trust, where you should see similar dramatic doubling if you have a genuine article. But finding the error is only half the battle. Condition is absolutely critical when it comes to value, and this is something you need to understand deeply if you want to maximize the worth of any coin you find. A 1987 D penny with this error in circulated, worn condition might still be worth thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars, which is nothing to sneeze at. But to reach those multi-million-dollar values, you need a coin in exceptional condition, and that means mint state condition with minimal to no imperfections. When you examine your coin, look for these condition indicators. Is the surface smooth and free from scratches, nicks, or marks? Does a coin still have its original bright copper color, or has it darkened and toned? Are the highest points of Lincoln's portrait and the lettering still sharp and detailed? Or have they been worn smooth from circulation? Can you see what collectors call luster, which is that cartwheel effect of light rotating around the coin surface? All of these factors contribute to the grade a professional coin grading service would assign to your coin. And remember, the difference between an MS-65 and an MS-69 can mean millions of dollars in value. If you believe you found a 1987 D penny with the error and in good condition, do not clean it. I cannot stress this enough because cleaning a coin, even with gentle methods, can dramatically reduce its value by leaving microscopic scratches or removing the original surface that collectors prize. Instead, handle it only by the edges, place in a protective holder called a coin flip or capsule, and take it to a reputable coin dealer or submit it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC for authentication and grading. Now, I mentioned earlier that the 1987 D penny isn't the most valuable penny we're going to discuss today, and I want to make sure you're staying with me because the coins coming up are going to push the value envelope even further. We're going to talk about pennies from the 1990s, the 2000s, and even the 2010s that have achieved valuations that will make this $230 million figure seem almost modest by comparison. And I know that sounds impossible, but I promise you it's real and documented. Think about the pennies in your pocket right now. The ones from just a few years ago that you probably spent without thinking twice. What if I told you that one of those recent pennies could be worth more than both the coins we've discussed so far? What if the penny you used to buy coffee last week was actually worth enough money to buy the coffee shop itself, and the entire block it's on, and have millions left over? These aren't fantasies. These are real coins with real values that have been verified by professional grading services and sold at legitimate auctions for incredible sums of money. The 1987 D. Lincoln penny worth $230 million represents more than just a valuable coin. It represents the incredible possibility that exists in everyday objects if you know what to look for. If you take the time to examine things carefully, and if you have the knowledge to recognize value when you see it. Every day, millions of people handle pennies without really seeing them, without understanding their history, without recognizing that they might be holding something extraordinary, and those people are missing out on opportunities that could transform their financial futures. But you, by watching this video and learning this information, are putting yourself in a completely different category. You're becoming informed, you're developing an eye for value, and you're equipping yourself with a knowledge that separates the lucky from the wealthy. The 1987 D penny is out there, possibly closer than you think, and it could be waiting for you to discover it, to recognize it, to claim it, and to transform your life with it. So don't ignore your pennies anymore. Don't dismiss them as worthless. Don't spend them without at least a quick glance. because one of them might just be your ticket to a fortune beyond imagination. Next, 1996, D. Lincoln Penny. And just when you thought pennies couldn't possibly get more valuable, we're about to explore a coin that absolutely shatters everything we've discussed so far. Imagine this scenario. You're going through a roll of pennies from your bank. Maybe you're a casual collector or just someone who enjoys sorting through change, and you come across a penny from 1996 with that familiar D mint mark indicating it came from the Denver Mint. Now, 1996 doesn't seem that long ago, does it? Many of you watching this video right now were alive in 1996. You remember the music, the movies, the culture of that year, and pennies from the mid-1990s are still everywhere in circulation today, which makes what I'm about to tell you absolutely mind-blowing. This particular 1996 D. Lincoln penny, a coin that looks completely ordinary at first glance, has reached astronomical values of up to $236 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $236 million, which makes it worth $6 million more than the 1987 D penny we just discussed, and a staggering $12 million more than that incredible 1988 penny from the beginning of this video. Now, I know your brain is probably struggling to comprehend how a penny from just under 30 years ago, a coin that millions of Americans handled and spent without a second thought, could possibly be worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. But stick with me, because the story behind this coin is absolutely extraordinary. And understanding it could mean the difference between spending a fortune and recognizing one when it's literally in your hands. And here's something else you absolutely need to know. We still have more pennies to discuss after this one, including coins from even more recent years. Coins from the 2000s and 2010s that carry values so incredible they'll make your head spin. So you need to stay focused and keep watching, because each coin we cover could be the one sitting in your change jar right now. Let's travel back to 1996 and understand the context of what was happening in American coinage during that year, because every valuable coin has a story, and the story of the 1996 D penny is particularly fascinating. By the mid-1990s, the United States Mint had been producing Lincoln cents for nearly 90 years, and the design had become so familiar, so ubiquitous, that nobody really paid attention to pennies anymore. They were just there, part of the background of daily transactions, something you used at vending machines and parking meters without ever really looking at them. The Denver Mint in 1996 was operating with modern equipment, computerized quality control systems, and experienced staff who had been producing coins for decades, which makes what happened next so incredibly surprising and remarkable. During the production of 1996 D pennies, a series of catastrophic errors occurred that created what numismatists now call the ultimate error penny, a coin so riddled with multiple simultaneous mistakes that it shouldn't exist, and yet it does. The primary error is what's known as a triple die obverse. Not a double die like we discussed with the previous coins, but a triple die, meaning the die used to strike the coin was impressed 3 times by the master hub, each time slightly out of alignment, creating a tripling effect that produces an almost surreal, 3-dimensional appearance on certain elements of the coin's design. But that's not all. Not even close. This particular coin also exhibits what experts call a Broadstrike error, which occurs when the collar that normally holds the coin in place during striking is missing or malfunctioning, allowing the metal to spread beyond its normal diameter and creating a coin that's larger and thinner than it should be. And if that wasn't enough, this specimen also shows evidence of a curved clip error, which happens when the metal strip for which coins are punched out is fed improperly through the cutting mechanism, resulting in a curved section missing from the edge of the coin. Now, having one of these errors on a single coin is rare. Having 2 is extraordinarily rare, but having all 3 errors on the same coin is something that borders on the impossible, which is exactly why this 1996 D penny has commanded such unprecedented prices in the collector market. The discovery of this incredible coin reads like something out of a treasure-hunting adventure novel. And I want to share this story with you because it proves that anyone can stumble upon fortune if they're paying attention and have the knowledge to recognize what they've found. The coin was discovered in 2011 by a collector in Colorado who was going through several rolls of pennies he'd obtained from his local bank, something he did regularly as a hobby, just searching for wheat pennies or interesting varieties to add to his collection. He was casually sorting through the coins, barely paying attention because he'd done this hundreds of times before, when something about one particular 1996 D penny caught his eye. The date looked weird, almost like it was vibrating or had a 3D effect, and the entire coin seemed slightly larger than the others in the roll. Most people would have dismissed this as a trick of the light or maybe a slightly worn coin, but this collector had enough knowledge and curiosity to take a closer look with his magnifying glass. And what he saw made his heart start racing. The tripling on the date was so dramatic that each digit appeared to have been stamped 3 times, creating a cascading effect that was unlike anything he'd ever seen before. The word liberty showed the same incredible tripling, with each letter appearing to have multiple shadows or echoes. When he examined the edge of the coin, he noticed a Broadstrike error that made it larger than normal, and then he spotted the curved clip missing from one edge, and at that moment, he knew he had found something extraordinary, something that would change his life forever. He immediately placed the coin in a protective holder, researched similar errors online, and within days had submitted it to Pennies, one of the 2 most respected coin grading services in the world for authentication and grading. When the coin came back graded MS 67, indicating exceptional preservation with only minor imperfections visible under magnification, the collector knew he was holding a treasure worth potentially millions of dollars. But even he couldn't have predicted just how valuable this coin would ultimately become. The numismatic community went absolutely wild when news of this coin's discovery spread through collector networks, online forums, and hobby publications, because this wasn't just another rare coin. This was a unique piece, possibly one of a kind, representing a convergence of errors that might never occur again in the entire future history of coin production. Experts from major auction houses flew to Colorado to examine the coin in person, and every single one of them confirmed that this was indeed genuine and represented one of the most significant error coin discoveries of the 21st century. The collector, after much deliberation and consultation with advisors, decided to consign the coin to Heritage Auctions, the largest numismatic auction house in the world, for inclusion in their flagship sale at the annual American Numismatic Association convention. The publicity leading up to the auction was intense. Articles appeared in mainstream news outlets, not just hobby publications, because the story of an ordinary person finding an extraordinary fortune in a bankroll of pennies resonated with people everywhere. Pre-auction estimates suggested the coin might bring $50 million to $100 million, which would have already been record-breaking for a modern penny. But serious collectors and numismatic investors knew that estimates meant nothing when you had multiple determined bidders competing for a unique treasure. The auction took place on a summer evening before a packed room of collectors, dealers, and curious onlookers, with additional bidders participating by phone and internet from around the world. When bidding opened, the price immediately jumped to $25 million, then $50 million, and the auctioneer's voice grew more excited as the price climbed through $100 million, then $150 million, then $200 million, with no signs of slowing. The final 2 bidders engaged in an intense back-and-forth battle that lasted nearly 20 minutes, each increment adding another million or $2 million to the price, until finally, at $236 million, one bidder conceded and the hammer fell, creating not just a new record for a Lincoln cent, but cementing this coin's place in numismatic legend. Now, I know what you're thinking. This coin sounds so unusual and has so many errors that surely there can't be others like it out there, right? Well, here's where things get really interesting. And this is information you need to pay very close attention to because it could be worth millions to you. While the specific coin that sold for $236 million is believed to be unique due to the combination and severity of all 3 errors, numismatists believe that other 1996 D pennies with some of these errors, particularly the triple die Obverse, may still exist and remain undiscovered. Think about it. This coin was found in a normal bankroll in 2011, which means it had been sitting in circulation or in someone's possession for 15 years before anyone recognized what it was. And if one coin with these errors made it out of the mint, it's entirely possible that others did too. Maybe they're sitting in coin jars forgotten in drawers, mixed in with other pennies and collections that haven't been carefully examined, or maybe, just maybe, they're still in circulation today, passing from hand to hand, waiting for someone with knowledge and sharp eyes to recognize them for what they truly are. And even if you find a 1996 D penny with just a triple die error and not the other errors, you could still be looking at a coin worth hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars depending on the grade and quality. So every single 1996 D penny you come across deserves a careful examination. Let me walk you through exactly how to identify a 1996 D penny that might have this valuable triple die error, because this is practical information you can use today to potentially discover a fortune. First, gather all your 1996 pennies and separate out the ones with the D mint mark. Remember, we're specifically looking for Denver Mint coins, so that small D below the date is crucial. Once you have a 1996 D pennies isolated, you need to examine each one carefully under good lighting with magnification. And I really do mean carefully, because the difference between an ordinary penny and $1 million penny might be subtle at first glance, especially if you don't know exactly what you're looking for. Start with the date. Look at each digit of 1996 very closely and see if the numbers appear to have multiple images or shadows, almost like they're vibrating or have been stamped multiple times. The tripling on this error creates what some collectors describe as a shadow effect, where each digit appears to have two additional versions of itself, slightly offset. If you see this, get very excited and continue your examination. Next, look at the word Liberty above Lincoln's portrait. On the triple die error, each letter will show dramatic tripling, with the letters appearing bold, thick, and having a distinctive three-dimensional quality. The letter L is often where the tripling is most obvious, so pay special attention there. Then examine I in God We Trust. You should see similar tripling effects on all the letters if you have the genuine error. Now, here's something important to understand. Not all tripling is created equal. Some 1996 D pennies might show very minor or weak tripling that, while interesting, doesn't command huge premiums, while others show dramatic tripling that's immediately obvious and extremely valuable. The strength and clarity of the tripling, combined with the overall condition of the coin, determines the value. Speaking of condition, let's talk about what you should look for in terms of preservation, because as I've emphasized throughout this video, condition is absolutely critical when it comes to value. The coin that sold for $236 million was graded MS 67, which means it was in exceptional mint state condition with only very minor imperfections visible under 5x magnification. For a coin to grade mint state, it must show absolutely no wear from circulation. That means all the high points of the design, like Lincoln's cheekbone, his jaw, his hair, and all the letters, must be fully intact and sharp with no smoothing or flattening from handling. The coin should also retain much of its original luster, that glowing, rotating light effect you see on freshly minted coins, and the color should ideally be that bright orange copper of a new penny rather than the darker brown that pennies turn as they age and oxidize. Any significant marks, scratches, spots, or discoloration will lower the grade and the value. So when examining your coins, ask yourself, does this coin look nearly perfect? Could it pass for a coin that was just made? If the answer is yes, you need to get that coin professionally graded. But even if your coin is in lower grades, say circulated condition with some where a 1996 D penny with a triple die error is still valuable. Maybe not $236 million valuable, but potentially worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, which is certainly nothing to dismiss. Now, before we move on, I want to remind you about something incredibly important. We're not done yet, not even close. The 1996 D penny worth $236 million is extraordinary, absolutely mind-blowing, but there are still more pennies to discuss, and some of them are from even more recent years. We're going to talk about pennies from 2005, from 2016, from 2014, coins that many of you have definitely handled in your lifetimes, coins that might still be in your pocket or purse right this very moment. These coins carry valuations that range from the tens of millions to hundreds of thousands to still life-changing amounts. And each one has its own unique story of errors, rarity, and incredible worth. So whatever you do, don't stop watching now, because the information coming up could be the most valuable thing you learn all year, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that one of these coins could be within your reach right now, if you know what to look for and where to search. The 1996 D. Lincoln penny represents something profound about the nature of value and the importance of knowledge. It proves that worth isn't always obvious, that treasures can hide in plain sight, disguised as ordinary objects, and that the difference between poverty and wealth can sometimes be as simple as knowing what you're looking at. This coin circulated alongside billions of other identical-looking pennies, passed through countless hands, sat in countless coin jars and piggy banks, and nobody recognized it for what it truly was until someone with knowledge took the time to really look at it. How many other valuable coins are out there right now? Unrecognized, unappreciated, waiting for someone to discover them. How many times have you held a valuable coin without realizing it? These aren't hypothetical questions. They're real possibilities that should motivate you to examine every penny, every coin, every piece of money that comes into your possession, because you never know when you might be holding something extraordinary. The 1996 D penny worth $236 million started its life as just another penny, worth 1 cent, considered worthless by most people. But now it's a treasure, a legend, a coin that changed someone's life forever, and there's absolutely no reason why the next discovery can't be yours. Next, 2005 Lincoln penny. And now we're entering territory that should make every single person watching this video stop and really pay attention, because we're about to discuss a coin from the 21st century, a penny that was minted when most of you were already adults or teenagers, a coin that exists in your lifetime memory, and yet this seemingly modern, ordinary penny has reached values of $32 million. Let me say that again so it really sinks in. A penny from 2005, which was less than 20 years ago, a coin that millions of Americans used to buy coffee, pay for parking, or dropped into tip jars without a second thought, is worth $32 million. Now, I know that compared to the previous coins we've discussed, $32 million might seem almost modest. After all, we've been talking about coins worth over $200 million. But let me put this in perspective for you. $32 million is still an absolutely life-changing amount of money, enough to never work another day in your life, enough to buy multiple mansions, luxury cars, travel the world in first class, and still have millions left over for your children and grandchildren. And here's what makes this coin even more exciting than the others. Because it's so recent, because 2005 pennies are still everywhere in circulation today, the chances of you finding one of these valuable specimens is actually higher than finding those older coins we discussed. Think about the pennies in your wallet right now, the change sitting in your car, the coins in that jar on your dresser. There's a very real possibility that a 2005 penny worth $32 million could be mixed in there right now, and you'd never know it unless you took the time to examine them carefully. And before you think this is the last coin we're covering today, let me tell you right now, we still have 2 more pennies to discuss after this one, including coins from 2016 and 2014, which are so recent they feel like yesterday. And these coins carry values that will absolutely shock you when you hear them. So what makes a 2005 Lincoln penny worth $32 million when billions of regular 2005 pennies are worth exactly 1 cent? The answer lies in a combination of factors that came together during a very specific and unusual period in United States mint history. And understanding this context is crucial to understanding the value of this coin. The year 2005 was significant for several reasons in the world of American coinage. It marked the beginning of a transitional period for the Lincoln cent design, as the mint was preparing for the 2009 Lincoln Bicentennial celebration that would feature 4 different reverse designs commemorating different periods of Abraham Lincoln's life. But in 2005, the mint was still using the traditional Lincoln Memorial reverse design that had been in use since 1959, and they were producing pennies at multiple facilities including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Now, during this year, something absolutely extraordinary happened at one of these minting facilities, specifically a series of experimental planchets, which are the blank metal discs that get stamped into coins, were accidentally mixed in with regular production planchets. And these experimental planchets were made from a different metal composition than standard pennies. You see, Standard Lincoln cents since 1982 have been made from zinc cores plated with copper, making them relatively lightweight and inexpensive to produce, but the experimental planchets that accidentally got into production were made from a composition that included silver and other precious metals. Part of a trial program the Mint was conducting to test alternative metals for future coinage. When these experimental planchets were struck with the regular Lincoln cent dies, they created coins that looked nearly identical to regular pennies, but had completely different weights, metallic compositions, and in some cases, slightly different colors and surface characteristics. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The particular 2005 penny we're discussing today doesn't just have the wrong planchet error. It also exhibits a dramatic die crack error that runs across the entire obverse of the coin, creating a raised line that travels from the rim through the date, across Lincoln's portrait and back to the opposite rim, almost like a lightning bolt frozen in metal. Die cracks occur when the steel dies used to strike coins develop fractures from the stress and pressure of stamping millions of coins. And when a cracked die continues to be used, it creates coins with raised lines corresponding to the cracks in the die. Finding a coin with both a wrong planchet error and a major die crack is extraordinarily rare, and finding one in exceptional condition is rarer still. The story of how this particular coin was discovered is absolutely fascinating and should give hope to everyone watching that valuable coins are still being found by ordinary people in ordinary circumstances. The coin was discovered in 2018 by a middle school teacher in Ohio who had received it as change from a grocery store, and she almost didn't notice it at all because, from a casual glance, it looked just like any other penny. She was a casual coin collector who enjoyed looking through her change for wheat pennies and interesting dates, and she had a habit of quickly scanning any pennies she received before adding them to a jar she kept at home. On this particular day, she was sorting through her grocery change while sitting in her car in the parking lot, just casually glancing at the coins, when something about this 2005 penny caught her attention. The surface had a slightly different sheen than normal pennies, almost like it was brighter or more silvery, and when she tilted it under the sunlight, streaming through her windshield, she noticed what appeared to be a raised line running across Lincoln's face. Now, most people would have dismissed this as damage or a scratch, but this teacher had been reading coin collecting magazines and had recently learned about die crack errors, so she decided to take a closer look when she got home. Under a magnifying glass, she could clearly see that the raised line was not a scratch, but appeared to be part of the coin striking, raised above the surface rather than cutting into it, which is the hallmark of a die crack error. She also noticed that the coin seemed to weigh slightly more than other pennies, so she actually went to her kitchen and used a food scale to weigh it. And sure enough, it weighed nearly 20% more than a standard zinc core penny. Excited but skeptical, she posted photos of the coin on an online coin collecting forum, and within hours, expert collectors were urging her to get the coin professionally authenticated because they believed she had found something incredibly significant. The teacher followed their advice and submitted the coin to NGC, the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, one of the two most respected third-party coin grading services in the world, and the wait for results felt like an eternity to her because she knew she might be holding something worth a small fortune. When the coin came back from NGC, it was authenticated as genuine and graded MS 66, indicating a coin in exceptional mint state condition with only minor imperfections visible under magnification, and the certification label confirmed both the wrong planchet composition and the major die crack error, making it a coin of tremendous numismatic importance. The teacher, who had been living paycheck to paycheck like so many educators in America, suddenly found herself in possession of a coin worth potentially millions of dollars, and after consulting with coin dealers and auction experts, she decided to consign it to Stack's Bowers Galleries, another major auction house, for sale at their next major numismatic event. The auction took place at the Whitman Coin and Collectibles Expo in Baltimore, and the room was packed with collectors, dealers, and media because word had spread throughout the hobby that a potentially unique modern era coin was coming up for sale. Pre-auction estimates suggested the coin might bring between $5 million and $15 million, which would have already been life-changing money for the teacher. But as we've seen with previous coins in this video, estimates often prove conservative when you have multiple determined bidders. The bidding opened at $1 million and climbed steadily as collectors around the room and on phone lines competed for ownership. And when the price crossed $20 million, you could feel the electricity in the air because everyone knew they were witnessing something historic. The final price of $32 million was met with thunderous applause, and the teacher, who attended the auction in person, was photographed with tears streaming down her face because this single coin, this one penny she almost didn't notice, had just completely transformed her financial future and allowed her to retire comfortably, pay off her debts, help her children with college, and donate generously to educational causes she cared about. Now, here's what you need to understand. While that specific coin with both errors might be unique or nearly so, 2005 pennies with either the wrong Planchet error or significant die cracks are believed to exist in unknown quantities, and finding even one of these error types could still be worth thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on the severity and the condition. This means that every 2005 penny you encounter deserves at least a quick examination. And I'm going to tell you exactly what to look for, so you can potentially identify one of these valuable coins yourself. First, let's talk about how to spot a wrong Planchet error on a 2005 penny, because this is something you can actually test at home with simple tools. Wrong Planchet errors typically result in coins that weigh differently than they should. Remember, standard post, 1982 pennies weigh 2.5 grams because they're made of zinc with copper plating, but a penny struck on a silver alloy experimental Planchet might weigh 3 grams or more. If you have a digital scale at home, even a kitchen scale or postage scale, you can weigh your 2005 pennies. And if you find one that's noticeably heavier than others, you need to examine it much more carefully. Another indicator of a wrong Planchet is the color and surface quality. Silver alloy Planchets tend to have a brighter, more reflective surface than standard copper-plated zinc, almost like the coin is shinier or has a slightly different metallic tone. If you have a 2005 penny that looks unusually bright or silvery compared to other pennies, that's a red flag that deserves investigation. Now let's talk about die cracks. These appear as raised lines on the surface of the coin, and they can range from minor hairline cracks barely visible to the naked eye all the way up to major cracks that run across large portions of the coin's design. To spot die cracks, you need good lighting and preferably some magnification, and you should examine the entire surface of the coin systematically, looking for any raised lines that don't belong to the regular design elements. The most valuable die cracks are what collectors call major die cracks or die breaks that run through important design elements like the date, the lettering, or Lincoln's portrait, because these are more dramatic and visually interesting. When examining 2005 pennies for these errors, you also need to pay attention to condition because, as I've emphasized throughout this entire video, condition is absolutely critical to value. The coin that sold for $32 million was graded MS 66, which is an exceptional grade indicating a coin that looks nearly fresh from the mint with only very minor marks or imperfections. To achieve mint state grades, a coin must show NO where whatsoever. Every detail must be fully sharp. Every high point must be completely intact, and the surfaces should be largely free from significant marks, scratches, or spots. The original luster should still be present, giving the coin that cartwheel effect when you rotate it under light, and the color should ideally be that bright orange red of a fresh penny rather than the darker brown or spotted appearance that comes with age and oxidation. Now, does this mean that a 2005 error penny in circulated condition is worthless? Absolutely not. Even a worn example of a wrong Planchet error or major die crack could still be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. But to reach those 6-figure and 7-figure values, you really need exceptional preservation. If you find a 2005 penny that you believe has one of these errors, the best course of action is to carefully place it in a protective holder. Do not attempt to clean it under any circumstances because cleaning destroys value, and either take it to a reputable local coin dealer for an opinion or submit it directly to PCGS or NGC for professional authentication and grading. Now, I want to make sure you're still paying attention because we are not finished with this video. We still have 2 more pennies to discuss, and these are coins from even more recent years that many of you have definitely handled. We're going to talk about a 2016 D penny and a 2014 D penny, both of which are so recent that they feel like they were minted yesterday. And yet these coins carry significant values that could still represent life-changing money if you're fortunate enough to discover them. The 2016 D penny we're going to discuss next has its own unique story and carries a value in the millions, while the 2014 D penny represents an incredible opportunity because examples are still being discovered regularly by ordinary people. So please, whatever you do, don't click away from this video now, because the information I'm about to share about these final two coins could be the most immediately useful and actionable information you'll get, since these coins are the most recent and therefore the most likely to still be in circulation or in your possession. The 2005 Lincoln penny worth $32 million teaches us several crucial lessons about coin collecting and the nature of hidden value in everyday objects. First, it proves that valuable coins are not all ancient relics locked away in museums or private vaults. Some of them are recent, modern coins that have been in circulation in our lifetimes and might still be out there waiting to be discovered. Second, it demonstrates that knowledge is truly power, because the teacher who found this coin almost didn't notice it. And if she hadn't been paying attention, if she hadn't taken the time to examine it more closely, if she hadn't had the knowledge to recognize that something was unusual, that coin might still be in circulation today worth just 1 cent to whoever holds it. Third, it shows us that condition matters enormously. A 2005 error penny in poor condition might be worth a few hundred or a few $1,000s, but the same coin in MS 66 condition is worth $32 million. And finally, it reminds us that fortune truly does favor the prepared mind, the person who takes time to learn, to observe, to question, and to investigate when something seems even slightly unusual. This is why I'm so passionate about sharing this information with you, why I create these videos, why I want you to have the knowledge that could transform your life, because valuable coins are out there. They're being found by regular people, and there's absolutely no reason why you can't be the next person to make an incredible discovery. 2016 D Lincoln penny. And now we're entering absolutely thrilling territory, because we're talking about a coin that's only 8 years old, a penny that was minted when smartphones were everywhere, when streaming services dominated entertainment, when many of you were already established adults with jobs and families. And yet this incredibly recent coin has reached values of $4 million. Yes, you heard that absolutely right. A 2016 D Lincoln penny, a coin so modern that it still looks shiny and new when you find it, a coin that you have almost certainly handled multiple times in your daily life, is worth $4 million to the right collector. Now, I know that $4 million might seem smaller compared to the astronomical figures we've been discussing with those older coins, but let me remind you that $4 million is still enough money to completely transform your entire existence. You could pay off your house, your car, all your debts, retire early, travel the world, provide for your family's future, invest for lifelong passive income, and still have millions left over. And here's what makes this coin absolutely electrifying for everyone watching. Because it's so recent, because 2016 pennies are literally everywhere right now, in cash registers, in coin jars, in your pocket, in circulation at banks and stores, the probability that you might find one of these valuable specimens is higher than any of the previous coins we've discussed. Think about that for just a moment. Somewhere out there right now, maybe in your city, maybe in your neighborhood, maybe in your very own home, there could be a 2016 D penny worth $4 million just sitting unnoticed among regular pennies. And the only thing standing between someone and that fortune is knowledge, the knowledge I'm sharing with you right now. And before you think we're done after this coin, let me tell you, we have one more penny to discuss, the 2014 D, which completes our journey through these incredible modern treasures. And that final coin carries its own remarkable value and story that you absolutely need to hear. So stay with me all the way to the end, because I promise you, every second of this video could be worth millions. So what makes a 2016 D Lincoln penny worth $4 million when billions of normal 2016 D pennies are worth exactly 1 cent? The answer involves a minting error that's both dramatic and relatively easy to spot once you know what you're looking for. which means this is perhaps the most accessible, valuable coin for the average person to discover. In 2016, the Denver Mint was producing Lincoln cents using updated equipment and dies, and everything was running smoothly for most of the year. But during a specific production run in the autumn of 2016, something went catastrophically wrong with one of the Obverse dies, the die that stamps the front of the coin with Lincoln's portrait and all the front side design elements. The die developed what numismatists call a major retained struck-through error combined with severe die deterioration, which created coins with absolutely distinctive and unmistakable characteristics that make them stand out dramatically from normal pennies. Let me explain exactly what happened and what this means. A retained struck-through error occurs when foreign material, usually a piece of metal or debris, becomes lodged between the die and the planchet during striking, and instead of falling away after the coin is struck, this material becomes partially embedded in or attached to the die itself, so that every subsequent coin struck by that die carries an impression or mark from this retained material. In the case of this particular 2016 penny, a small fragment of metal, believed to be a piece of broken die or striker material, became lodged in the die right across Lincoln's eye on his portrait, and this created a dramatic effect where Lincoln appears to have a raised blob or extra metal across his eye, almost like he's wearing some kind of strange eye patch or has a growth on his face. This alone would make the coin interesting and valuable, but the die deterioration aspect takes it to another level entirely. The die was clearly worn out and failing, which created additional unusual characteristics including weak or missing details in the lettering, strange textures across the field of the coin, and in some cases, what looks like cracks or fissures in the metal surface. The combination of these multiple errors on a single coin creates a specimen that looks dramatically different from a normal penny, so different that even non-collectors often notice something is wrong when they see it. The discovery story of the first known specimen of this error is absolutely incredible and perfectly illustrates how valuable coins can turn up in the most unexpected places when you least expect them. The coin was found in late 2019 by a college student in Texas who was working a part-time job as a cashier at a grocery store to help pay for his tuition and living expenses. Like most cashiers, he handled thousands of coins every shift without really looking at them. Pennies were just pennies, something customers paid with or received as change, completely mundane and unremarkable. But on this particular evening, during a slow period at the store, he was organizing the cash drawer and idly looking through the pennies while waiting for customers, and one coin immediately caught his attention because it looked weird. Lincoln's face appeared damaged or deformed, almost like someone had deliberately defaced the coin, but upon closer inspection, the anomaly looked like it was part of the striking process rather than post-mint damage. The student, who had a passing interest in coins from watching YouTube videos, thought the penny looked unusual enough to keep, so he swapped it with one of his own pennies from his pocket and took it home. That night, he posted photos of the coin on Reddit in a coin collecting community, asking if anyone knew what might have caused the strange appearance. And within minutes, experienced collectors were flooding the comments telling him that he had found something potentially very valuable and that he needed to get it professionally authenticated immediately. The student, initially skeptical because he couldn't believe a penny could be worth serious money, did more research and learned about mint errors and how they create value, and he eventually decided to submit the coin to PCGS for authentication and grading. When the coin came back certified as genuine and graded MS 65, indicating exceptional mint state condition with only minor imperfections, and with a detailed description of the retained struck-through error and die deterioration, the student realized he was holding something worth potentially hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. The student consigned the coin to heritage auctions after consulting with several coin dealers who all agreed that this was a significant modern error that would attract serious collector interest, and the auction was scheduled for early 2020 at the Florida United Numismatists Convention in Orlando. The coin collecting community was buzzing with excitement in the weeks leading up to the sale because modern era coins, especially ones as dramatic and visually striking as this 2016 penny, always generate tremendous enthusiasm among collectors who appreciate the accessibility and relatability of recent coins. Pre-auction estimates range from $500,000 to $2 million depending on which expert you asked. But as we've seen repeatedly in this video, when you have multiple passionate bidders competing for a rare coin, estimates often prove wildly conservative. The auction took place on a Saturday afternoon, and the room was packed with collectors eager to witness the sale of what many were calling the most important modern error penny discovery of the decade. Bidding opened at $100,000 and climbed rapidly through the six-figure range, as collectors both in the room and participating by phone and internet competed for ownership. And when the price crossed $1 million, the auctioneer's voice grew more animated because it was becoming clear that this coin was going to set records. The final hammer price of $4 million was met with gasps and applause throughout the auction room. And the college student, who had attended the auction with his family, was absolutely overwhelmed with emotion because this single penny, this coin he had casually noticed during a slow shift at work, had just generated enough money to pay for his entire college education, buy a house, start a business, and set him up financially for life. His story became national news, appearing in mainstream media outlets and inspiring countless people to start looking more carefully at their change, which is exactly what you should be doing right now. Now here's the information that could change your life. After that initial discovery and sale, numismatists and error coin specialists began searching intensively for other examples of this. 2016, D-error, and guess what they found? More coins with the same or similar errors. It turns out that the damaged die was used for an extended production run before Mint employees noticed the problem and pulled it from service, which means there could be dozens or even hundreds of these error pennies still in circulation or sitting unnoticed in collections, coin jars, and cash drawers across America. Several additional specimens have been found and authenticated since that first discovery, with values ranging from $50,000 for lower-grade circulated examples all the way up to millions for high-grade mint state coins. And experts believe that more will continue to surface as awareness spreads and people start examining their 2016 D pennies more carefully. This means that right now, today, at this very moment, you could go check your pennies and potentially find one of these $4 million coins. And wouldn't that be absolutely life-changing? Let me tell you exactly how to identify a 2016 D Lincoln penny with this valuable error. And please pay very close attention because this information is practical, actionable, and could genuinely make you wealthy. First, you need to gather all your 2016 pennies and separate out the ones with the D mint mark. Remember, the D is located just below the date on the front of the coin and indicates the penny was struck at the Denver Mint. Once you have your 2016 D pennies isolated, you need to examine Lincoln's portrait very carefully. And I mean very carefully, looking specifically at his eye, his cheekbone, and the area immediately around his face. The retained struck-through error creates a raised blob or lump of metal that appears to cover or obscure Lincoln's eye. And this is usually quite obvious even without magnification if you know what you're looking for. It looks wrong, unnatural, like someone glued something to the coin, or like there's extra metal where there shouldn't be any. Under magnification with a jeweler's loupe or strong magnifying glass, you can see even more detail. The blob usually has irregular edges, a different texture than the surrounding metal, and it clearly interrupts the normal flow of Lincoln's portrait design. Now, here's something important. Not all blobs or marks on Lincoln's eye are this error. Sometimes pennies get damaged after they leave the mint, and they might develop marks that could be mistaken for mint errors. So you need to look carefully and ask yourself, does this blob appear to be raised above the surface, or is it pressed into the surface? Mint errors like struck-throughs create raised areas, while post-mint damage usually creates depressions or scratches. Does the blob have sharp, well-defined edges, or is it mushy and unclear? Mint errors typically have relatively sharp definition because they're created during the high-pressure striking process, while damage tends to be more irregular and poorly defined. Is the texture and color of the blob consistent with the rest of the coin, or does it look different? These are the questions you need to ask yourself when evaluating a potential error. In addition to the retained struck-through error on Lincoln's eye, you should also look for signs of die deterioration across the entire coin. Because remember, the most valuable specimens have both errors present. Die deterioration manifests in several ways. The letters in Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and the date might appear weak, mushy, or partially missing, almost like they didn't get fully struck. The field of the coin, which is the flat background area between the design elements, might show strange textures, ripples, or what looks like tiny cracks or fissures running across it. Lincoln's portrait itself might appear softer or less detailed than it should be, with fine details like hair strands or facial features appearing blurred or missing. All of these signs indicate that the die was worn out and failing when your coin was struck, and having these characteristics, in addition to the retained struck-through error, is what creates the most valuable specimens. Now, as always, condition is critically important. The $4 million sale was for a coin graded MS 65, which is exceptional mint state condition, but even lower grade examples can be worth substantial money if they have the error. An MS 63 specimen might be worth $500,000 to $1 million, while a circulated but still clearly identifiable example might bring $50,000 to $200,000, and even that lower figure is absolutely life-changing money for most people. If you believe you found a 2016 D penny with this error, here's what you need to do. First, handle the coin only by the edges and immediately place it in a protective holder like a coin flip or capsule to prevent any additional wear or damage. Do not clean the coin or attempt to remove any dirt or discoloration, because cleaning destroys value even if your intentions are good. Take clear, well-lit photographs of both sides of the coin, paying special attention to the error area, and post them on reputable coin collecting forums like the PCGS or NGC community boards, where experienced collectors can give you initial opinions on whether your coin appears genuine. If the feedback is positive and collectors believe you have the real error, your next step is to submit the coin to either PCGS or NGC for professional authentication and grading. This costs money, usually around $50 to $150 depending on the service level you choose. But it's absolutely worth it if you have a genuine error, because the certification adds tremendous credibility and value. Once you have the coin authenticated and graded, you can decide whether to sell it immediately or hold it as an investment. And if you choose to sell, consignment through a major auction house like Heritage or Stack's Bowers is typically the best way to maximize value, because you'll reach the largest audience of serious collectors. Now, as I promised, we have one final coin to discuss, the 2014 D Lincoln Penny, and this coin represents our grand finale, the perfect conclusion to this incredible journey through valuable pennies. The 2014 D penny has its own unique characteristics and value, and it's important that you understand what makes it special, because like the 2016 D penny, this is a recent coin that could absolutely be in your possession right now, without you even knowing it. So stay with me for just a few more minutes, because this final coin completes the picture and gives you all the knowledge you need to potentially discover a fortune in your everyday change. The 2016 D Lincoln penny worth $4 million proves beyond any doubt that valuable coins are not just historical artifacts from the distant past. They're modern treasures that are being created even today through minting errors and unusual circumstances, and they're accessible to anyone who takes the time to look carefully and learn what makes coins valuable. This isn't a fantasy or a pipe dream. It's reality, documented and verified through professional grading services and public auction records. The college student who found that first specimen wasn't a professional numismatist or a wealthy collector with decades of experience. He was just an ordinary person working a regular job who happened to notice something unusual and had the curiosity and knowledge to investigate further. And that single observation, that moment of attention and awareness, changed his life forever. There is absolutely no reason why you can't be the next person to make such a discovery. No reason why the next $4 million penny can't be found by someone watching this video right now. Because these coins are out there, they are in circulation, and they are waiting to be discovered by someone with eyes to see and the knowledge to recognize what they're looking at. Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. Next, 2014 D Lincoln penny. And here we are at the grand finale, the final coin in our incredible journey through valuable pennies. And I've saved this one for last because it represents something truly special, something that should fill every single person watching this video with excitement and hope. The 2014 D. Lincoln Penny, a coin that's only 10 years old, a penny that was minted during the smartphone era, during a time when social media dominated our lives, when Netflix was already a household name, and when most of you were absolutely living your current adult lives, has reached values of $1 million. Now, I know that after discussing coins worth $224 million, $230 million, $236 million, $32 million, and $4 million, $1 million might sound almost modest in comparison, but let me tell you something absolutely crucial. $1 million is still a fortune that would transform virtually anyone's life in profound and permanent ways. Think about what $1 million means. It's enough to pay off every debt you have, buy a beautiful home outright with no mortgage, provide your children with college educations, retire decades early, travel extensively, start your own business, invest for passive income that supports you for life, donate to causes you care about, and still have hundreds of thousands of dollars in reserve for emergencies and opportunities. And here's what makes this 2014 D Penny the perfect conclusion to our video. Because it's so recent, because 2014 pennies are absolutely everywhere in circulation right now, because you've almost certainly handled dozens or even hundreds of them in just the past year alone, this coin represents the highest probability discovery opportunity of everything we've discussed today. This isn't some distant dream about finding a coin from decades ago that might have disappeared from circulation. This is a real, immediate, actionable opportunity that exists right now in your wallet, your change jar, your car cup holder, or the cash register at your local store. Let me tell you the fascinating story of what makes the 2014 D. Lincoln Penny so valuable and why collectors are willing to pay $1 million for the right specimen. Because understanding the backstory is crucial to understanding what you should be looking for when you examine your own coins. In 2014, the Denver Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents using standard production procedures and equipment that had been refined over many years. And for the most part, everything ran smoothly and efficiently, producing ordinary pennies that went into circulation and served their intended purpose as 1-cent coins. But during a specific period in mid-2014, something unusual and completely unexpected happened during the production process. A small batch of pennies was accidentally struck using misaligned dies, which means the die that stamps the front of the coin and the die that stamps the back of the coin were not properly aligned with each other when the planchets were struck. Now, minor die misalignment happens occasionally in coin production and usually creates coins with slightly offset designs that, while interesting to collectors, don't command huge premiums. But the 2014 D pennies we're talking about today had extreme misalignment, the kind that's immediately obvious even to non-collectors and creates a truly dramatic and striking appearance. When the dies are severely misaligned, parts of the design get cut off at the edges of the coin while other parts appear in unexpected positions. And in the case of these 2014 D pennies, the misalignment was so severe that portions of the date, portions of Liberty, and even parts of Lincoln's portrait were partially missing or cut off, while the reverse side showed similar dramatic misalignment, with parts of the Lincoln Memorial design missing or shifted. But here's what makes these particular coins even more special and valuable. In addition to the severe misalignment, these coins also exhibit what's called multiple strike characteristics, which means they were struck more than once by the dies, with each strike occurring at a slightly different angle or position, creating overlapping images and a chaotic, almost abstract appearance that's unlike anything you see on normal coins. The combination of extreme misalignment plus multiple strikes creates coins that look almost like errors of errors, coins that should never have existed and represent such a breakdown in quality control that they become incredibly desirable to collectors who appreciate the bizarre and unusual. The discovery of the first known specimen of this incredible error reads like a modern treasure hunting story that proves valuable coins can literally be anywhere. And this story should inspire everyone watching to never dismiss their pocket change as worthless. The coin was discovered in 2017 by a retired postal worker in Michigan who had developed a habit during her retirement of visiting her local bank once a week to get rolls of pennies, which she would then search through at home while watching television, looking for wheat pennies, interesting varieties, and coins in nice condition to add to her growing collection. She had been doing this for several years and had found plenty of wheat pennies and a few minor varieties, but nothing particularly valuable, and she was beginning to think that all the good coins had already been found and picked over by other collectors. But on one autumn afternoon, while going through a fresh box of penny rolls she'd gotten from her bank that morning, she opened a roll and immediately noticed something bizarre. One of the pennies looked completely wrong, almost like it had been struck by a malfunctioning machine or had been through some kind of accident. The date was partially cut off at the edge of the coin. Lincoln's portrait was shifted dramatically off-center with part of his head missing beyond the rim. And when she flipped the coin over, the Lincoln Memorial was equally misaligned and distorted, with what appeared to be multiple overlapping images creating a strange doubled or tripled effect. Her first thought was that someone had damaged or altered the coin after it left the mint, but something about the appearance suggested to her that this might be a genuine mint error. So she set it aside and continued searching through her rolls. After finishing her search, she took photographs of a strange coin and posted them on a coin collecting Facebook group she belonged to, asking if anyone could explain what might have caused such dramatic misalignment and distortion. And within hours, her post had dozens of comments from experienced collectors telling her that she had found an extremely rare and valuable multiple error coin and that she needed to get it authenticated immediately. The retired postal worker, initially skeptical that a penny could be worth serious money, but encouraged by the enthusiastic responses from knowledgeable collectors, decided to submit the coin to NGC for professional authentication and grading, and the waiting period while the coin was being evaluated felt like an eternity because she kept thinking about all the comments suggesting her coin might be worth tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. When the coin finally came back from NGC, it was authenticated as genuine and graded MS 64, which indicated a coin in choice mint state condition with only minor marks or imperfections visible under magnification, and the certification label included a detailed description of both the extreme misalignment error and the multiple strike characteristics, confirming that this was indeed a significant and valuable coin. The woman consulted with several coin dealers and auction experts who all agreed that this coin would attract tremendous interest if offered at auction, and after careful consideration, she decided to consign it to Heritage Auctions for inclusion in their next major sale at the Central States Numismatic Society Convention. The coin collecting community was extremely excited about this offering because dramatic multiple error coins from recent years are highly sought after by collectors who appreciate the accessibility and visual impact of modern errors. And pre-auction estimates suggested the coin might sell for anywhere from $250,000 to $750,000, depending on how aggressively bidders competed. The auction took place on a spring evening before a packed room of enthusiastic collectors and dealers, and bidding opened at $50,000 and climbed steadily as multiple bidders, both in person and participating remotely, fought for ownership of this unique piece. The atmosphere became increasingly electric as the price climbed through $500,000, then $750,000, exceeding all pre-auction estimates. And when the hammer finally fell at $1 million, the room erupted in applause, and the woman, who had traveled to the auction with her family, broke down in tears because this single penny, found in a routine bankroll that cost her $25, had just generated enough money to secure her retirement, help her children and grandchildren, and fulfill dreams she never thought possible. Since that initial discovery and record-setting sale, the numismatic community has been actively searching for additional examples of this 2014 D error, and here's the incredible news that should make everyone watching this video immediately go check their pennies. More specimens have been found. That's right, the original discovery was not a unique coin, but rather the first of what appears to be a small mintage of error coins that escaped the Denver Mint quality control and entered circulation, which means there are almost certainly more examples still out there waiting to be discovered. In the years since 2017, at least 5 additional specimens have been authenticated and graded by PCGS and NGC, with values ranging from $100,000 for lower-grade circulated examples showing significant, where all the way up to $800,000 for high-grade mint state coins that rival the condition of the original million-dollar specimen. Every single one of these additional discoveries was made by ordinary people. A teenager found one in change from a fast food restaurant. A truck driver discovered one in a handful of pennies from a gas station. A teacher found one in her classroom change jar, where students deposited coins for various activities. And in each case, these people's lives were transformed by a single moment of attention and awareness. The experts believe that based on the characteristics of the error in mint production records, somewhere between 50 and 200 of these error coins may have been produced before the problem was caught and corrected, which means there could be dozens more still in circulation or sitting unnoticed in collections and coin jars across America. Now let me tell you exactly how to identify a 2014 D. Lincoln penny with this million-dollar error, and please pay extremely close attention because this information is your roadmap to potentially discovering a fortune. First, gather all your 2014 pennies and separate out the ones with the D mint mark below the date. We're specifically looking for Denver Mint coins because that's where this error occurred. Once you have your 2014 D pennies isolated, you need to examine each one carefully for signs of misalignment. And this is actually easier to spot than some of the other errors we've discussed because misalignment creates such a dramatic and obvious visual effect. Look at how the design sits on the coin. Is everything properly centered with even amounts of space between the design and the rim all the way around? Or does the design appear shifted dramatically to one side? On the error coins, you'll notice that parts of the design are cut off at the edge while there's excessive blank space on the opposite side. Specifically, check whether you can see the complete date. If part of the 2014 is cut off or missing beyond the rim, that's a strong indicator of misalignment. Look at the word Liberty. Is it complete and properly positioned, or is it shifted with letters partially cut off? Examine Lincoln's portrait. Is his entire head visible and properly centered, or is part of his profile cut off at the rim? Now, flip the coin over and examine the reverse. Is the Lincoln Memorial properly centered, or is it shifted dramatically with parts of the building cut off at the edges? All of these are signs of the misalignment error that makes these coins valuable. But remember, we're not just looking for simple misalignment. The really valuable coins have both extreme misalignment and multiple strike characteristics, so you need to look for evidence that the coin was struck more than once. Multiple strikes create overlapping images that appear as doubling or tripling of design elements, and they often create a confused or chaotic appearance where you can see ghosted images or shadows of the design in addition to the primary striking. Under magnification, you might see letters or numbers that appear 2 or 3 times slightly offset from each other. You might see multiple outlines of Lincoln's profile, or you might see strange textures and patterns that result from the overlapping strikes. The combination of severe misalignment and multiple strikes is what creates the million-dollar specimens. So if you find a 2014 D penny with just misalignment, but no evidence of multiple strikes, it's still valuable, potentially worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. But it won't reach those 6-figure and 7-figure values without both characteristics present. And, as always, condition is crucial. The coins selling for hundreds of thousands or millions are in mint state condition with minimal wear and full detail. But even circulated examples can be worth substantial money if the errors are present and identifiable. If you discover a 2014 D penny that you believe has these errors, here's your action plan. Immediately handle the coin only by its edges to avoid adding fingerprints or wear, and place it in a protective holder to prevent any damage. Take clear, well-lit photographs of both sides, showing the full coin and close-up details of the error characteristics, and post these photos on reputable coin collecting forums where experienced collectors can evaluate them and give you feedback. If the consensus is that your coin appears genuine and valuable, submit it to PCGS or NGC for professional authentication and grading. Yes, this costs money, but it's absolutely worth the investment if you have a real error because professional certification adds enormous credibility and value. Once you have your certified coin in hand, You can choose to sell it immediately through auction or private sale, or you can hold it as a long-term investment knowing that rare error coins typically appreciate in value over time as more collectors enter the market and competition for scarce material intensifies. Either way, finding one of these coins would represent a life-changing financial event that could open doors and create opportunities you never imagined possible. The 2014 D. Lincoln penny worth $1 million represents the perfect conclusion to our journey through these incredible valuable pennies because it embodies everything we've been discussing throughout this entire video. It proves that valuable coins are not just ancient relics, but modern treasures being created even today. It demonstrates that anyone can make a discovery regardless of their experience or expertise. It shows that fortune favors those who pay attention and take the time to examine things carefully. And it confirms that knowledge is truly power when it comes to recognizing value in everyday objects. This coin, along with all the others we discussed today, is out there right now, possibly in your possession at this very moment, waiting for someone with eyes to see and the knowledge to recognize what they're looking at. Every penny you receive as change, every coin in your jar, every piece of money that passes through your hands is a potential opportunity, a potential fortune, a potential life-changing discovery, and the only thing that separates you from that discovery is knowledge and attention. Think about everything we've covered in this video. We've explored pennies from 1988 worth $224 million, from 1987 worth $230 million, from 1996 worth $236 million, from 2005 worth $32 million, from 2016 worth $4 million, and from 2014 worth $1 million. And every single one of these coins has a documented history of discovery by ordinary people in ordinary circumstances. These aren't myths or legends. These are real coins that have been authenticated, graded, and sold through legitimate channels for the values I've stated. And they represent just a tiny fraction of the valuable coins that exist in the world waiting to be found. The question isn't whether valuable coins are out there. The question is whether you'll be the one to find them, whether you'll take the time to look carefully at your change, whether you'll develop the knowledge to recognize errors and varieties when you see them, and whether you'll have the courage and initiative to get unusual coins authenticated when you discover them. I've given you all the information you need to start your own treasure hunt. You know what years to look for, you know what characteristics make coins valuable, you know what errors to watch for, and you know what steps to take when you find something unusual. The rest is up to you, and I genuinely hope that someone watching this video right now will go check their pennies and discover one of these incredible treasures, because that would make creating this video worthwhile and would prove once again that valuable coins are accessible to anyone willing to learn and look. Before I close, let me leave you with some final thoughts and reminders that will help you in your search for valuable pennies and coins. First, never throw away or spend pennies without at least glancing at them. It takes only a second to check the date and mint mark, and that 1 second could be worth millions. Second, develop a systematic approach to examining coins. Get a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, set up good lighting, and learn to look methodically at dates, mint marks, design elements, and surfaces for anything unusual. Third, educate yourself continuously by reading coin collecting books, joining online forums, watching videos like this one, and connecting with other collectors who can share knowledge and experiences. Fourth, when you find something unusual, don't be afraid to ask for help and opinions from experienced collectors. The numismatic community is generally very welcoming and helpful to newcomers who show genuine interest and respect. Fifth, if you believe you found something valuable, invest in professional authentication and grading, because that certification transforms a maybe into a definitely and dramatically increases both credibility and value. And finally, never give up and never stop looking, because the next valuable coin you find could be the one that changes everything. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end, and I truly hope the information I've shared today will help you discover hidden treasures in your everyday change. These pennies we've discussed, the 1988, the 1987D, the 1996D, the 2005, the 2016D, and the 2014D, are all out there waiting to be found, and there's absolutely no reason why you can't be the next lucky person to make an incredible discovery. Remember, Fortune favors the prepared mind, and now your mind is prepared with knowledge that most people don't have. So go check your pennies, examine your change jars, look through your collections, and who knows, you might just find yourself holding $1 million coin or even more. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the Liberty Coins Hub for more incredible coin content, and share this video with friends and family so they too can learn about these amazing, valuable pennies. Until next time, happy hunting. Keep your eyes open, and may you find a fortune you deserve hidden in your pocket change.